Hello there, I'm Fancy, and in this tutorial I will show you how to create simple endless runner with Rick Sanchez in Unreal Engine 5. It's perfect if you don't have any experience with Unreal Engine because I will show you everything from scratch, how to do stuff step by step, and also give you all assets that you will need for the tutorial. So let's stop wasting your time and get to work. Alright, let's get started. I have created just empty project, and the only thing I put in here are characters. So I have here a character of Rick or model of Rick, and then some animations that we will use. So flip and running. You can download this whole project, link in the description. It will have only this stuff, so you can work with exactly the same stuff as I do. So first thing we will do is to create character for our rig. So click on Ctrl Spacebar, that will give you this content browser. If you have never worked with Unreal Engine before, don't worry, just follow what I do and you will eventually understand why I do stuff. I will try to explain it in as much detail as I can. And now here in content browser, we will have to create new folder where we will stash our blueprints. Blueprints are just simple packages of code. So let's right click and create here a new folder. Call it blueprints and open that folder. And right in here, right click, and we will want to create blueprint class. And as you would guess, it will be character. And let's call it main character underscore pp. Let's open that. Open full blueprint in case you have it there. And first thing we will do here in viewport, let's click on our mesh and put here our rig. So right here you can see here skeletal mesh, so let's click on it and put here our rig. And you can see that he is way too big and rotated in the wrong way. Let's put him down. You can press R on the keyboard to get a scale and scale him down manually, or you can use these scale units. Now switch it to E on the keyboard, that will give you rotation, and you can rotate him in the right way. And this, of course, it's also changed in here, so you can just put here -90 if you want to be exact. Now let's close that, again Ctrl Spacebar and put our character in the game. Okay, click on play, and now nothing will happen. You can just see that your character is in the game, but you can't control it or do anything with him. And you can see that I put him a bit too low, so I can right click here in main character in our world outliner, which is basically all the assets that you have in the scene. You can click on edit main character, back to viewport, and put him a bit higher. I've enabled snapping, so you can see that it stops on every 10th, but I want to disable it to find the exact value, so let's deselect it in here, click here, and put it a bit lower. So now to set it up that you can control him, or at least set it up that he is the main player for you, you have to create, first of all, blueprint that's called game mode. Game mode is basically responsible for all the other blueprints and setting out general stuff like what's your character, widgets, HUDs, and stuff like that. So again, Ctrl Spacebar, right click, and blueprint class. Let's put here game mode. Let's call it main game mode. And to set it up, you have to find here a world setting, which you don't have. So let's find here window and put here world setting. Let's look at our game mode override, open it, and put here main game mode. Now if you click on selected game modes, you can set our default pawn class, which will be of course our rig, and we called it main character, so let's set it in here. So now let's delete this one. If I click on play, you can see that it spawned us right inside his mouth, which is not really good, but at least we have our character. So now let's add camera and all those funny stuff. So open it here again, viewport, and add here camera. Before placing that camera, let's add here also spring arm. If you just scroll down, you should have it in here, camera spring arm, and make sure that your camera is under spring arm and not the other way around. So camera under spring arm. And you can see it automatically jumped on the end of that spring arm. So what I will do now is to rotate it, because I want to have sort of 2.5D/2D game. Right, close it, click on play. And look at that, now it's looking a bit better. I want it to be much further, so let's look into spring arm and set target arm length to, it was 300, let's do about 1000. And one more thing I will adjust is FOV. I want it to be actually higher, so let's try about 110 and see where it will take us. That's probably a bit too much. Let's try to adjust it, so let's do 80, actually lower it, and lower spring arm, so let's do 800 and click on play. Oh, that's pretty good. Alright, now let's set up that our character can move. So back in main character BP, and because we want it to move constantly, we don't want to actually control it, let's just go into event tick. Event tick fires every frame of the game, which means that if you play your game on 60 frames per second, it will run 60 times per each second. And what I want to do here is to add movement output. So add movement input, input not output, my bad. And we want it to move along x-axis, I believe. Let's try 1 on x-axis and leave scale value to 1. Let's see what it does. Looks pretty good. Let's slow it down for a bit. So set scale value to 0.4. And let's scale this floor much more for now. You can use same shortcuts as before. So R for scale and scale it up. We will change it later. Now click on play and look at that, our rig is rolling and running, but it's a bit stiff, as you can see, it's a bit of a posing in there. So let's add some animations. And because it's rig, I have a wonderful drunk animation. Let's look at it. Forward roll, running animation in here. Let's open that. And you can see how he is drunkly running. Useful thing is that we will be also able to speed it up, which we will do in a second. And because we will use more than one animation, we will have to create animation blueprint, which is blueprint that controls different animations and transitions between them. So right click, create animation blueprint, and we are going to use our drunk run skeleton. That's a stupid name, I'm sorry, I didn't rename assets. Alright, click on OK. And call it rig_anim bp as a animation blueprint. And before we will actually put that our animation, we want to do one more thing. Let's go into character and right click in here. We want to create animation and blend space 1D. Alright, let's use our drunk run forward skeleton again and call it run anim. Let's open that. And what we will do is to put here our running animation on one part, and surprisingly enough, our running animation on the other half as well. Blend space is used how to create smooth transition between two animations. But here we are using two same animations, and that's because I want to speed one of them up. Let's click on dot on the right side, which is our second run animation. You can see it right here, run anim, close it, and I want to switch rate scale to 2.5. It will look really weird, but trust me, I have a reason why I'm doing that. If you click on these labels, it will show us our animation, and if you click on this one, it will have regular rate scale of 1, and on this one, run anim 1, it will have a rate scale of 2.5, which is perfect. So let's save it, and again control spacebar, back into blueprints, and we'll open our anim BP. Take it from here, create a new state machine, open that, compile. And what we'll do here is to create first state, that which will be running. So add state, call it running, connect our entry right into it. And now if you double click on it, we can put here our run anim. Connect it in here, compile. And now you can see if we have this value set to 0, it runs on the default speed. But if I switch it to 100, and compile, it runs on that 2.5 rate, which will be very useful later because as we will be speeding up our character, we will also want to speed up animation to show players some visual feedback that hey, something is going on. Alright, let's switch it back to 0, compile, and leave it like that, because now what we are going to do is to get back on our main character, and clicking on our mesh character component, we can switch our animation blueprint. Let's find here a rig anim BP, compile, and on viewport is already running. If I click on play, you can see that I got here him running. He's not jumping or anything, but that's what we are going to do now. Let's close that with escape, control spacebar, and let's do that. For jumping, we will need to have some input action. So to set it up, we will go into project settings, so edit, project setting. And right here we have input. Click on that and we will have to add here action mapping. So click on plus and call it jump action. And now we have to set up which hardware keyboard it will do. So of course spacebar. In case that you want to publish it on phones, you can add here also touch 1. Oh, come on. Touch 1, which even though it's kind of overkill to use Unreal Engine 5 for mobile game, I'm not judging you. Alright, control space again. And now if we get into our character, we can right click here and use our jump action. Alright, and after it will be pressed, we will just use jump. Jump is function that was created with character class. Because we created this blueprint as character, it already has physics with this character movement and also function which enables jumping. Alright, compile, and let's try that. Click on play, and look at that, he's jumping. Cool. Let's set it that he's jumping a bit more. So in character movement, we should have here jump Z velocity. Let's set it to 800. Oh, maybe, you know what, let's do 1000 and do a little trick. We will also increase gravity, so he will be falling down faster. Let's try to set gravity scale to 3. Click on play. And look at that. That's looking pretty good. Alright, and now let's set up here animation for the jump. We will have to start in animation blueprint. Let's open that. And click here on new state machine. Right click in here and want to create add state, which will be jump. Let's open that and put here our forward flip. Connect it in here. You can preview it. And now we have to set up conditions for going from running to jumping. Let's take your arrow in there. And we will just create here simple variable. So let's right click in here, promote it to variable, and call it can jump. And I don't want to have it connected just like that. Take it from here and make sure that it's equal to true. Now copy that, Ctrl C, and from here back in running, let's make sure that this thing connected in the same way, but not true. And now in main character, what we will simply do is to create here same variable. Let's call it is jumping. And we will set it to true after he jumps and then wait for a bit. Also delay. Let's try 0.4. We will maybe adjust it later and then set it to not true again, so false. And now we have to transition this information into our anim BP. For that, we will go into event graph in animation blueprint and cast to our character. So cast to main character BP, connect it in here. And now from here you can get your variable. Get is jumping, make sure it's the same variable, and use it to set our can jump. Alright, let's see how that works. Click on play, and if I click on spacebar, you can see that it doesn't work that well. He's going to the different animation, but he's jumping from that way too soon. So let's smooth it out. I still want to have pretty responsive controls. So what I will do in Rig Anim BP, go into jump to running, new state machine, and in my jump, first of all, let's speed it up. Let's do like 2 times. Let's see how it looks like if I speed it up 2 times. Maybe too fast. Let's try 1.5. So 1.5 play rate, and probably I'm going to move start position a bit. So let's try around 0.2. And now in main character, let's prolong this delay. So let's try 1 second. Alright, compile. Click on play. And that's looking pretty good. But you can see that he's repeating that animation way too soon. So that means 2 things. First of all, we made that animation way too fast. So Rig Anim BP, let's slow it down to 1.3 and let's decrease our delay. So let's try 75. I would say that now it's looking pretty good. There is still a bit too long transition once you finish the jumping. So with that, what I can do is to back into new state machine. If you click on these arrows, on the arrow that goes from jump to running, you can change duration, and I want to prolong it. So let's say 0.35, and with that shorten just a tiny bit delay. Let's take away those 5 milliseconds and try that now. That didn't really help. So let's try only 0.3 and see what this gives us. I think that's pretty cool. There is still a bit of a jump and you have to find those perfect values. I will leave that to you. This is good enough for me. Okay, now we have somewhat playable rig. So let's do something with this really ugly environment and create here endless corridor, which you would expect from Endless Runner. So let's delete this thing and create here new blueprint. Right click, blueprint class. Let's use just actor and call it map piece underscore BP. And now what I want to do is to click on components, add it, and add here a cube. We will change its scale a little bit. So let's set scale to let's do 4 and Y scale set to 2. because right now if we just put it in the game, Rick should be able to run on it. So let's put it somewhat under him. We can play. Cool. Alright, back in Blueprint, what I will do here is add an arrow. So add arrow and make sure that it's under default scene root and make sure that it's on coordinate 0, 0, 0. And now we will have to move it so it always starts on coordinates of that arrow. Why we are doing that is because we will spawn a lot of these next to each other and they will always spawn from this point. Now let's copy that arrow, duplicate it, and let's move our, you know what, let's rename it just to be sure. Let's call it arrow start and arrow end. All the time we are moving along x-axis, so what we will do on our arrow end, let's move it on about 500. Oh, that's way too low. Alright, let's try like 2000. And now just take your cubes and move it somewhere in between there so that Rick has to run from them. And let's scale this one up a bit to something like that. And make sure that it's not further than end of this arrow. Now if you close it, you can see that it changed in the game. So if I move it a bit back, my Rick will start on it and I will have to jump over them. Alright, first piece of information, you have to move them close to each other. Or decrease gravity. It really depends what kind of gameplay you want to have. If I leave it just go, oh, that was way too close. He can jump from it now. He can't at least on the second one. But you should be able to jump right now. Cool. Okay, and now let's make sure that we spawn next one once you get through these. So edit map piece, and we will add here a collision. So add component, collision, box collision. Right in here. And let's scale it up so we make sure that the Rick runs through that. And once he does, we will want to scroll right down here and click on component begin overlap. Here you have to specify which component it should overlap. In our case, it's of course our Rick. So cast to main character, BP, connect other actor. So what you want to do is now spawn actor from class, and it will be same that we have here, which means map piece BP. But before that, what I want to do is to connect our spawn transform, and for that we have our arrow end. So let's take it from here, get world transform, and connect it right in here. And now select our class and let's leave it to our map piece. And right now our character wouldn't really run through it, so let's move it back and copy that. So Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Now you should be sure to run through that. So it's running, blah, blah, blah. Right now I got through that collision, which you can see, but I got through it. And if I really did, it should spawn them next to each other. And look at that, it really did. But if Rick was running always on the same speed, it would be pretty boring. So let's speed him up. If we go into main character BP, you can see here that we set up our scale to 0.4. Let's right click and promote it to variable. Call it speed. And on default, it's 0.4. And what we will simply do is that every time he runs through one of these collisions and it spawns new piece, it will also add some numbers on that variable that we have just created. So if I go into map piece, let's get speed and also set speed. So set speed. And what I want to do is to get speed, put it on plus, get rid of add, and I want to add, let's try, by default it's on 0.4, so let's add 0.5. And I also want to clamp it because I don't want it to go more than one specific value, so let's clamp it, clamp float, and let's say 2. That's already pretty high, but basically here you are setting your maximum speed, how fast you think he can run. So let's connect it in here, through, and see if that works. And we will do one more thing before testing it. After you spawn the new piece, you don't need to have that old piece in the memory. So what you will do is to simply delete it. So after spawning new one, let's wait for a bit so it's out of the screen. You can't see it anymore. Let's say about 3 seconds and destroy actor. Compile, close, and look at that. And looks like 3 seconds is way too soon. So let's try like 15 or maybe 20 seconds and we can test that. So click on space And you know what, right now I don't want him to be falling, so let's just quickly scale this up so he can't fall. We'll adjust it a bit later. Click on play, and now if you press F8, you can see it and zoom as you need. You can see that it's running. If he gets to that collision, it should spawn a new one. And if we wait for a bit, it should also start deleting those that are behind him. Now look at that, it's starting to deleting them. You can probably shorten the delay a bit, but that I will leave that up to you to find your perfect value. Now press F8 again, and you can control rig once more. And I'm not that sure how much it is speeding up, so let's make sure that we see that. So print string, after event tick, we will connect our speed. It will always tell us what speed we are at right now. So you can adjust how much you want to speed up. So click on play, it's 0.4, now 0.5. And it's probably pretty hard to see if our animation is always like that. And that's why we have created that blank space before. So rig anim BP, we will go into running. And here we have our run anim. So let's right click and promote it variable again as well. Let's call it speed anim. So we have here a difference in variables. And right now it's on 0, and we want to eventually for it to go to 100. Leave it on 0 right here. And what we will simply do is to back in our main character, create here new variable, which will be speed animation, as we have in our anim BP. So in here in variable type, left click, switch it to float, compile. By default it's 0, and now back in our map piece, as we are speeding it up in here, we will also speed up our animation. So let's move all this back, and we will use same logic for setting our speed for animation. So speed animation, get it, and then set it. So set speed animation, and this time around I want to set it to +10. So add +10, so it will take 10 overlaps before it will reach 100. Let me comment it for you. So let's select it, C, and this thing is responsible for speeding up animation, move it all down, and this thing for speeding up character. Wonderful. And this one will spawn new piece. So C, spawn new piece. Alright, let's close it. And now we have to do one more thing. We have to take from in our rig anim, in our event graph, we have to take that value to set our speed anim. So let's put here speed anim and take our speed animation, get it, and connect it in here. And now we will have our rig running. We should be also speeding up. Let him run for a bit. And you can see that his hands are already moving faster. Jumping still works the same. Animation is now much faster, and we are in about 0.5 speed. Oh, 0.8, sorry. I don't know why I said that, whatever. And now what we will do here is to adjust it a tiny bit. We will add here a text that will tell you how far you are. Let's put it in here and scroll down. World size, let's set to 50 and rotate it. Let's do 100 actually. Let's move it somewhere here. So right click in event graph, event begin play. What you want to do is to set the text. Oh, it's under cube, I didn't want that. Make sure it's under default scene root. Set text, make sure that it's a function set text. And we will use variable for that, so set it to plus. Variable, call it score. Let it be integer, connect it in here. Get score, connect. Arrow down, and let's make sure that minimum integral digits will be 2. Connect it after that event begin play. By default it will be on 0, but after you spawn each new one, what you want to do is to set score, and that score will be bar your current score, get score, plus 1. So what this will basically do is with each one it will add 1 to it. You know what, let's do 10. 10 is much cooler. Let's make it even bigger, so 200, put it down and somewhere around here, so by the end of it. Alright, click on play. First one will be just zeros because you haven't overlapped it yet, and I think the second one will be zeros as well. So what you can do is to not use this piece for start and just start with something else, but next ones should start adding score. Wonderful, got here 10, come on Rick, speed it up mate. 20, blah blah blah. To get rid of that bug, what we can simply do is to delete this thing and add here just something that our rig can run on. So left here out create, shapes, cube. Make sure that it's on the same z coordinates, so copy it from here, paste in here, and just create here something like a desk, or just a zone, I don't know why I called it desk, that your hero can run on. Right, first one will be zeros because it just overlapped it because we have created it before that, and now we should run by 10. Cool, we got score. And now before adding more map pieces, let's also set here up some resetting of the game. So what we will simply do is to use same logic as we did in here. We will add collision under it, and once the player overlaps it, it will restart the game. So to make sure that we know where the game starts, let's put here a text. So left up here create, all classes, let's put here text and take it in here. Let's scroll down, switch world size to 250, and let's do bluish, something like, oh, okay, blue against blue is a really stupid idea, so let's leave it at white. Let's pretend I never set anything. And as our text, let's set start, and now rotate it. Alright, somewhere around here, and move it, of course, behind it. Now if you click on play, we got here start, and we can make it bigger. Let's do 350. And now let's add in our map piece, that collision. So click on add collision, box collision, and let's make sure that it's under it and scale it as big as you need. And make sure that player really has to fall into it if he's falling down, so it needs to cover everything. It can overlap other actors, it doesn't really matter with collisions, at least in this case. Now scroll down, and on our component begin overlap, let's cast to your player, which is main player, so cast to main character, VP, alright, not player but character, connect other actor. And what you want to do here is to, first of all, print some string to let you know that the game ended. So print string game over, and after delay, let's say 0.3 seconds, 0.35, let's do that. We want to get current level name and load that level. So from here, open level and connect it. I already adjusted these cubes a little bit so you can fall through that. Let's test that, so play. Alright, let's jump over the first one. And now if I fall down, it will restart the game. Cool. So now one last thing I will do here is to create different pieces, so it spawns them. I will create about 3 to 4 of them, but you can create as many as you want. And now what I will do is to look into map piece and adjust it a little bit. Surprisingly enough, I will start by deleting this stuff, and let's move this cube somewhere closer to here. Again, make sure that you have it pretty much on the space where your arrow starts. And now what I will do here, event graph, let's change our setting for spawning, because we don't want to spawn always only one piece. So let's right click on this, promote to variable, and delete that and disconnect it just for now. Compile, and if you left click on that class, let's rename it to piece list. Left click on this and switch it to array. Compile again. Now let's take it in here, get it, and we will want to get a copy and connect that copy in here. Right here, let's do a random integer in range, and from our piece list, let's add here last index and connect it in here. So it will always take a random actor of this list from 0 to last one. Right here there is 0 of them, so I will add one, and that will be the one that we used all this time. So piece, map piece. And now there is actually something I really messed up. We can't really use score right now, so we will rework it, don't worry about it. So what we will simply do is to save that value somewhere else. Right here, let's delete that and ignore it for now, and connect our spawn actor. And now what we will do is to add here a few more of these cubes, so player has to jump over them or something like that. Control spacebar, and what we will now do is create child blueprint. Let's call it map piece 01. Open that, and let's change it a little bit. It's basically the other blueprint that's created from previous blueprints. So let's scale this down much more. This one as well. Now let's create another one. So again, child blueprint, and you should create here, let's say 5 or 6 of them. to have there much more of a variety. I will create just 3 of them to demonstrate it. I will leave the rest up to you. And now what you have to do in your map piece pp, we have created this list of pieces that should spawn. So what I will simply do is to add here those other 2. So we have our map piece 02 and map piece 01, of course. I know we should start from 0. Alright, close that. And now if you click on play, our score won't work, but don't worry about it. I will fix it in a bit. And you can see that it's spawning different pieces of that map. And because we created those previous assets as child blueprints, it automatically added them in the list that I had in that first blueprint. Wonderful, we got complete game loop. So now to fixing that score, and everything you edit in map piece will be edited in these 2 as well, or all the others that you will possibly create. Let's find our main game mode and create that variable in here. And you don't really even have to go to event graph. Click here plus, and let's put here score GM as game mode and switch that variable to integer. By default, let's leave it on 0. And now in my map piece on construction script, which means when this actor will be constructed, I want to cast to game mode. So cast to main game mode. As our object, we will get game mode and get score. So get score GM, and you have to use that set text that we created before. Let's take it from here and connect it right here. And connect our value, of course. You can delete it after that event begin play. And now we'll also have to change adding that score. So right here, after you overlap that main character and spawn new piece, before you spawn new piece that is, we will have to add here a score. So let's do here just a quick thing. So you can copy that from that construction script, paste it in here. And what you will simply want to do is to set score GM, and you want to set it to your score GM plus 10. So set it to plus. Alright, let's try to connect all that. And again, let me describe it. See, adding score. And in construction script, here we are setting score to that text and take it from game mode. And of course, try to not be an idiot and connect it after you change it. Alright, first one will be just text because we are not setting it yet. You can change it later. Next one should be 10. Here we go. And if I keep going, it should be 20, etc, 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 etc. So to quickly change that first one, let's do something like go Mario, go, go. Now if I click on play, it should be go, 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 go. Here we go. And next one will be of course changed. I didn't manage to get to the next one. Not important part. Hey, that's everything for this tutorial. I hope that you learned something. It's a really simple game, but I think that it's a good game how to start learning with Unreal Engine 5 and just having something that you can show to your mom and get that wonderful pat on the head that you so desperately need. So that's about it now for real. Congrats if you finished it because it was somewhat a long tutorial. So that's it. A huge thank you to everyone on my Patreon. If you want to get project files for this, you can get them on that Patreon, which means project files for this full game. Not only that, first assets that you already have. And that's about it. Sir Fancy out.